Billy Pelser has a nice home.
Billy, is that you?
Yeah, Mom, it's me.
A nice job. A nice girl.
If you're not doing anything this Thursday night, maybe you'd like to go out on a date with me?
I'd love to.
And loving parents who are about to give him
You're gonna like this. No, don't shake it. We're gonna have to open it now. It won't wait till Christmas.
the most unusual gift he ever got.
What is it?
It's your new pet.
You know, even though they have a whole bunch of rules with them, I don't care. I want my own gizmo. I don't care. They're just so they honestly they predate. It looks like they predate the Furby, and I would like to know if the company that makes Furby, they actually were inspired by Gremlins. So, you know, you all know the story. You know, if you haven't seen this, you know, where have you been? You know, it's Gremlins. It's Gizmo. Come on. It's like a fluffy little furry. Like, come on. So, to recap, movie's about a boy who gets Gizmo, who's a gremlin, for Christmas. And they say, okay, there's 3 rules. You need no sunlight, no food after midnight, and especially no water. And of course, you know, break the rules, because, you know, kids always like breaking rules. And, you know, havoc ensues. So, you know, what can I say about this movie that hasn't been said? You know, this is a classic. It's from the 80s. You know, it's a great movie to show around Christmas time. And it's also the movie, this movie and another movie, that convinced the MPAA, yeah, we need a stronger rating. Because it was this movie and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, both helped made by Spielberg, who, in Temple, once you get to especially the second act, where it's like, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that, and then especially the third act, it's like, oh wow, that was really violent. Like, okay. This one, kind of the same thing, but with this, it's more slapstick, funny, but yet it's still, you still got, crazy stuff happening. So, like, the whole bar scene, it also helps if you watch the documentary In Search of Darkness. They interviewed Joe Dante, who directed the movie. They said that the bar scene took them an entire day to do, because they just kept coming up with gimmicks. Like, why don't we have one that just throws popcorn all over the place? Why don't we have one that's like drunk? Why don't we have one that flashes? And they just kept coming up with gimmicks right there on the spot. And they're just like, yeah, put that in the movie. Put that in the movie. So, I mean, I don't know how much more I can talk about Gremlins, because it's a classic. To me, I never really grew up. I didn't grow up watching Gremlins, but when I started getting more into Spielberg, I was looking at more of what he was producing, because I think it was Super 8, and he produced that movie. And it very much was just like, all right, this movie reminds me so much of like Spielberg's like movies from the 70s and 80s. And I'm thinking, okay, how much has this guy produced? And I found that this was one of them. So I started going through his back catalog of movies that he helped produce, and I found that Gremlins is one of them. So I'm like, shoot, let's watch this one. And I heard it was a Christmas movie. So I was like, all right, let's watch this around Christmas time. And I did, and yeah, I've always really liked this movie. It's more of a comedy but it also has its moments of horror. But that just comes with Spielberg, is that he can do, or he can produce, or he can direct any genre, but then it always has a Spielberg touch to it. So like movies like this, where it's just like, wow, okay, that wasn't expecting that, but this feels very Spielberg. Like, all right, I'm digging this. Yeah, the acting is really good. Especially the Gremlins design. I always thought that before seeing the movie, I saw what Gizmo looked like, and I saw what the other Gremlins look like, and I was like, so is that what they turn into when they get angry, or what is the context here? And I find out, yeah, it's no water, no sunlight, and no food after midnight. So I'm like, oh, so if you break any one of those rules, then whoops. Like, uh-oh. Okay, that's a great thing for Christmas. But, it's... I don't know how long I can keep going about Gremlins, because, everyone's already said it. From the acting to the way they look. The amount of people that are in this movie are great. And, it spawned a sequel, which I've seen once. And it definitely goes more over the top comedy go to it, especially like the part in Gremlins 2 where the film stalls and all of a sudden the Gremlins got into the projection booth. I was like, oh, okay, you're going this route. All right. So it kind of pulled, like, I would say what they did with Evil Dead, where, the first movie was more of a horror movie. 2 was like a horror comedy, and then 3 was more of a fantasy comedy movie with a little bit of sprinkles of horror. And I don't remember seeing 2, I think more than once or twice. I would like to go back and rewatch it, but it's like, do I want to? Okay. But Gremlins is a classic. I know a lot of people have debated, like, is it a children's film or horror film? It's both. I mean, think about it. Like, there was a lot of, like, movies that, I mean, also really think about it, is that a lot of those PG-rated movies from back in the 80s, a lot of them weren't made directly for kids. Like, really think about it. Like, this, or Poltergeist, or Ghostbusters, they really made for the kids' market. Even though they have, they'll have Spielberg attached to it. It's like, it's not, not necessarily made for kids. Even, go and watch E.T., where that film, it has kids in it, and they discover this alien. But there's some dark moments in that movie. And I still think it was stupid that they got rid of the guns for walkie-talkies. That was still a bit dumb. That's why I think South Park did a great job at parodying that. But Gremlins, to me, it's a great. It's not into amazing, but it is one of those movies that I like to revisit every now and then, because it is a classic. And it's also it's a classic from the 80s. It has Spielberg attached to it, and it's a great film. Maybe don't show this to your kids, like, when they're like below 10, I would say. But you do you are you. But you know, Gremlins is a classic, and it's especially a tradition to watch this around Christmas time.
Little monsters.
Right.
Hundreds of them.
Well, I don't know, maybe thousands.
They've been here too. Billy, what are these things? Where do they come from?
Look, I know it sounds crazy, I know. But in a few hours, you're gonna have a major disaster on your hands.
Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante. They'll be expecting you.